Call this meeting to order.
We gave them freedom from government, and they used it against us.
Shut up and sit down.
Making sense of bureaucrats and showing you how to use it against them. He knows. He's one of them.
Now I see how it works.
Helping us get government to work for us.
Helping us get government to work.
Sit back and have a listen. It is the Russell Betts Show. And now here is Russell Betts.
Now here is Russell Betts.
Well, Minneapolis, for example, just looks like a war zone. You got burnt out cars. Some people likening it to, well, what Beirut looked like after all the went from booming and wonderful place to live to, well, not so pleasant. And, here in the Coachella Valley, luckily been spared that, knock on wood. El Paseo's still safe. Palm Canyon Boulevard's still safe. And that's a real good thing. Now, the cities are getting beat up budget-wise, and we're going to get into some of that. Palm Springs and La Quinta have both issued layoffs. But right now, we're going to talk about another city that ends up getting beat up quite often. And I'm talking about Desert Hot Springs. Desert Hot Springs has been dumped on for years. And I've got a colleague here that is fond of calling it Felony Heights. And it doesn't stop there. I mean, mention Desert Hot Springs to people down valley, and you're going to get the same reaction. Wow, isn't that dangerous there? You live there? Well, let me give you an example. I'm down at a shopping center in Palm Desert, and I notice heaps of graffiti on walls, on signs, on the curbs, on the side of the building, just a lot of graffiti. And to me, it's shocking to see graffiti when I go to another city because we don't have graffiti in Desert Hot Springs. I am sure it pops up, but it's covered instantly, and I mean instantly. What goes up at midnight is often covered over before anyone sees it on their morning commute. So I see graffiti at the shopping center in Palm Desert, and I'm outside waiting for my wife who's inside shopping, and I see a woman come out of the store, so I say to her, "Wow, this is really shocking. There's a lot of graffiti in this town." And she said, "Oh, well, the city will come by and cover it over." I said, "Well, in our city, we just don't have this. It's so shocking to see." And she said, "Well, what city do you live in?" I said, "Well, Desert Hot Springs, of course." She says, "Oh, I would have thought you would have had a lot of graffiti there." See, there's the impression that people in the valley floor cities have of Desert Hot Springs, that it's graffiti-ridden. And, I replied to her, "Nope, we don't have any graffiti. Our city does not tolerate it, and it would never allow what I'm looking at here in your city." Anyhow, but that's what you get at it. People who don't go there don't realize. And here's the contrast. A friend of mine moved away from Desert Hot Springs 10 years ago, and he came back for a visit. And he says, "Wow." I mean, he actually knocked on my door, sat down, we started talking over coffee. And I want to be fair here, the first words out of his mouth when he knocked on the door and I opened it, so it wasn't like, "Wow, Desert Hot Springs has really improved. It really looks nice." We'd actually sat down to coffee and exchanged some pleasantries, and then he said, "Wow, Desert Hot Springs has really improved. It really looks nice." And I said, "But you mean the new streetscapes?" He says, "Yeah, that and everything. It just really looks good. Everything's very clean look to it." So let's go back to my friend calling Desert Hot Springs Felony Heights. I'm sure he's not the only one that thinks that, but like so many people that spout off without checking the facts, he's under the mistaken impression that Desert Hot Springs is the valley crime hotspot. I mean, Felony Heights, get it, Felony Heights, all the felons live there. Well, it's not. 3 cities in the Coachella Valley have a higher crime rate than Desert Hot Springs. And our city's been working for years and years, several years, to get to the point we're at now. And we have some work to do, but we're working at it. So as having this conversation with my friend, who's my Felony Heights friend, I happen to be in his city, sitting in a shopping center, and I'm waiting for my wife, who was inside shopping. And I tell him, "This is a disgrace. This shopping center parking area is an absolute disgrace. I'm looking at dead plants, graffiti, no ground cover in the planters. twisted, bent direction signs. I mean, this is making Palm Desert look like an oasis of everything's okay. So anyhow, I walked around taking some pictures and documenting it for him. I sent him an email, show him the text, and, I fixed the sign while I was doing that. It only took a couple of minutes to bend the sign back up and right and get it to look straight. I mean, and I just go, well, there's just no pride. I mean, the landscape uplights, the lights that shine up on trees, they're supposed to be pointing at the trees. These ones are all pointed every which way you can think of, but not on the tree, and I doubt they even illuminate. I mean, obviously, there were lots of lights that were missing. You could see the little mount where the light comes up out of the ground, and there's supposed to be a light on there. It's gone. And I'm doubting most of them aren't working. And the sprinkler systems are obviously long neglected. Sprinkler heads were popped off. They had, where you do had sprinkler heads, they were located where plants were supposed to be, but they'd all died for lack of care. And sprinklers were just busted, popping off. No ground cover, what to speak of, just raw dirt. And I said to my friend, have you seen this place? And he admitted he shops there regularly. And I said, this is criminal. This looks like felony lowlands. And the shocking part is, he didn't notice. You ever hear of the broken glass syndrome? That's where people keep walking past the same, window's been broken out. And people keep walking past it day after day after day, and pretty soon they don't even notice. So it must be what's going on with the shopping center. But for us in Desert Hot Springs, where we don't tolerate this kind of stuff, or we don't allow a shopping center to get that decrepit, it was shocking. It was really shocking to hear the complacency about it. Now don't get me wrong. Desert Hot Springs, I'm not trying to point out Desert Hot Springs is like taking a drive down Rodeo Drive. I'm speaking pre-riot Rodeo Drive, by the way. We still got work to do. We're working on it. We're getting there, and we're working on it. And we just don't have an acceptance for some of the things that I'm just shockingly finding from friends, like the woman outside the mall at the shopping center in Palm Desert. Oh, well, our city will get to it. Well, why haven't they gotten to it already? My Felony Heights friend seemed to be perfectly content to live like that. I mean, he was even making excuses for the city staff. And let's talk about city staff for a moment. I mean, that's what we do. In case you don't know, new listeners, this is my gig on Sundays to keep you informed, but my day job is as a city council member in the city of Desert Hot Springs, thus the pitch for Desert Hot Springs and the irritation it continually getting dumped on. But I interact with city staff lots of times. And when you see a shopping center get to that condition, there's only one place to look, and that's city staff not insisting that the developer do his job and maintain it. Now, when that shopping center went in, it went through the Planning Commission. And they said, hi, here's the landscaping that's going to go in. And you can't believe how incredibly detailed that landscaping plan is that was approved. And it called out this many plants, this type of plants, here's where they're going to be located, shade cover, whatever else, you name it. I guarantee you that landscaping plan did not include dead bushes sitting around, barren landscaping, and the only thing green are some oleanders that have been placed in there because they're so easy to maintain. So, staff is supposed to deal with this. And anyhow, I don't know if they'll get that cleaned up, but, to wrap this up, we call this a Chamber of Commerce pitch for my city, Desert Hot Springs. Nice, great place to live. The goal of our city has been, what a nice looking city. That we want, when people drive up our boulevard, we want them to say, what a nice looking city. I think I'll stop and have something to eat. Oh, I wonder what the houses cost here. This looks like it might be a nice place to set up a business, a quiet place to settle down. And it is. It's all that. It's like my friend who came to visit said, wow, the city looks a whole lot better than it did. We're working on it, okay? And if you sense some irritation in my voice, there is. I am tired of people dumping on my city, especially when they don't know what they're talking about, and especially when they're going in and out of graffiti-ridden shopping centers or shopping centers that look like nobody cares. All right, well, that's enough for a opening monologue rant. We're going to get to some other subjects.